Hey, I will call to order the Rolesville Board of Commissioners work session. This is April 15th, 2025. Just want to thank everybody in attendance and appreciate it. Got a couple items we're going to cover on the agenda, which is a couple things coming from the planning department. But I do want to request item be added after 4, a quick discussion on Perry Street and issues with the trucks over there. So unless there's a opposition, whoever makes the motion on the agenda, add that to, I guess, 4.5.
So moved.
All right, so second.
Second.
Got a motion second, any no discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Sounds like it was approved, and it was approved, so thank you very much. Meredith, I think you up. Eric, you got anything before we get started? Anything you want to mention before we get started? I think we're ready to go then.
Great.
Take off.
All right, sounds fun. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening, planning staff has an update for you on the comprehensive plan and the housing plan, and then we'll talk a bit about text amendments after that.
Is your mic working?
You know what? I've gotten feedback from my husband who watches at home and my fellow employees in the planning department that they can't hear me, so I wonder if I need to move the microphone closer.
Yeah,
I
you
hear
gotta
you
be
now.
real close to it.
Okay. I'll try to be more friendly. Thank you. So with the comprehensive plan, this is really not a fun slide to look at because there are too many words and too many boxes, but I wanted you all to know that we do have a schedule laid out. And if you recall, there was a kickoff with you all at a work session last fall, and then the consultant team was at Fall Fun Fest to gather initial feedback from the community, and then there was an online survey. And I know you all haven't heard much, or if anything, since then, so you're probably wondering what the heck is going on. And due to some staff capacity issues and one of our staff members leaving, we did have a lapse in progress on this project, and I accept responsibility for that and apologize for that. And I hope we can recommit and get more excited about this and be pumped about it as we move forward and make great progress. So this schedule shows the project going out until December. Initially, we thought the project would be finished in July or August of this year, but in order to cover all the steps, we need to extend through December, and I can briefly go over what will happen in the next few months and what's important to be involved in, and let me know if there is a point during that process that you would like the consultant to come back or staff to come back and make sure you're getting the involvement you're looking for in this project. So right now, we are doing focus groups. We had 2 last week, and we have 3 this week. One is tomorrow. I know it's supposed to be with Mayor Curran and our town leadership. Does that still work for
I think
you all?
Michael's heading that one up.
Yeah, Michael and I will
Development type.
be there, and our consultant will be there. So we look forward to that. And I have a preview on what that focus group will look like and what we've been talking about. Last week, one of the focus groups was with Rolesville small businesses, and it was really fun to listen to all the feedback the business owners had, and they had a lot of great ideas, and there's so much passion coming from that part of our community. That was exciting to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's good if any of the commissioners, even Linwood, if you guys want to meet with them, in fact, y'all can meet 2 of you at
Yes.
one time if you want to. But if you want to work with
Yeah,
Meredith and her
certainly.
staff, and
We could
they can do
schedule
a
2 by
Teams meeting.
2s.
Yeah, because, if you want to get your idea out there, like on a more personal level, you can do that.
Count me in.
Great,
Sign me up.
awesome.
But I think you can do 2 at a time,
Yes.
so.
Yes, we
That'd be
don't
good.
violate public meetings laws. So we can certainly incorporate that into the process right now. And the consultant would like us to schedule a community engagement event in June, and that will be talking about the potential framework of the plan and getting everyone who's interested in providing input out to, I was considering suggesting the Juneteenth event that's on June 21st. That sounds like it'll be a great event. I wanted to see what you all thought of that, and if you don't think that's a great idea to tag on to that, we could schedule a separate day for a Rolesville Reimagined event. So any feedback you have on the consultant team and staff getting a booth at the Juneteenth event, please let me know. So June will be an important meeting. It sounded like, did I hear something from Commissioner Long? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So big community engagement event, focus groups going on, steering committee meetings. So the steering committee is looking at the various chapters of the plan and will provide feedback on those as those are produced. And that is something you all could do also. I'd like to also include the planning board, because one of the duties of the planning board to participate in the process of the comprehensive plan. So we'll be interacting and giving as much feedback as we can as we create things. One of the things that I'm looking forward to getting input on is updating the future land use map. And I'm also very interested in changing those categories or changing the names of the categories. It's been troublesome to have the land use category names match the zoning district names. For example, low, residential, medium, residential, high. I think it'd be better to have different categories for the land use plan and then zoning districts that would go with those. So we can keep our zoning district names, and I would recommend changing those names so we can start thinking about that, as that's something we'll need to work on. Then there will be, as the project plan is developed, there'll be another community engagement event in the fall, and then hopefully everything's going well and we can take it to the planning board for a recommendation and then bring it to you all at a December town board meeting for a vote on adoption. So like I said, the schedule's been stretched out a little bit, but I think we'll have a really good process and an opportunity for a lot of engagement, which will make for a great plan with leadership buy-in and community buy-in, which will make it successful. I mentioned the focus groups happening last week and this week. I'd love to share with you the presentation that we're using during the focus groups, so you can check that out and see what we're talking about. So, Rolesville Reimagined comp plan. So with the focus groups, the consultant has led most of them so far and gives a team introduction, talks about what a comprehensive plan is, and asks questions, and I'll show you those. So you met Daniel and Greg when they came to the work session last fall. And I believe most of you, if not all of you, have met Kathleen Rose before of Rose & Associates. She's the sub-consultant for the Economic Development Strategic Plan portion of the comprehensive plan update, and the other Daniel works with her. So a comprehensive plan is the vision for the community, looking out into the future. We're looking at a horizon year of 2050. So with a comprehensive plan, you're thinking about what do we want 2050 to look like, and what do we need to do right now to be successful at that time. So we're long range looking out into the future. And the comprehensive plan incorporates the transportation plan, the parks plans, housing, land use, environmental items. And I know a favorite piece of that is the land use portion in the future land use map, because that is something we use regularly when you all make decisions on rezoning cases and other policy items. So in our process now, this is more fun to look at to me than the schedule with all the boxes and words. As you can see, so right now we are in the community engagement phase to understand goals and help draft the vision for the plan. With the focus group discussions, the first question that's asked is what makes Rolesville unique and why? And then the second, what challenges or pressures do you face in Rolesville? How can this plan benefit you, and what else do we need to know? So it's very open-ended, so it gives people to share, what they're passionate about and what is important to them. And as I mentioned with the business owners last week, and the other group we met with was the 401 landowners who were looking for that 401 gateway type of project. Like when we visited, I'm drawing a blank, the place at Park West Village in Morrisville. We've talked about something like that happening in that area. And we met with that group of landowners, and it was a very different experience than the business owners. I mentioned the business owners were very passionate and very focused, had tons of feedback immediately. And then the 401 landowners I could tell they were really hoping that we were farther along in the process, and they were really wanting something to react to. So they want to see that future land use map and some concept plans and things like that. So they're ready to be farther ahead. That's probably not a surprise.
How well was that attended? How many of them came?
There were, I think, 4 landowners in that, and then the consultants and
Was
Michael
the
and I were
church
there.
there? The church?
Yes,
The church
yes, the
there?
pastor was there.
Good, good.
Yes. Yeah, that was helpful. So next steps after the focus groups, and again, this is part of the focus group presentation. We'll review the findings, start looking into figuring out how to draft that future land use map. I mentioned the June public engagement event, and then that'll be really exciting to see what we get from that, and we'll have to distill out the key themes and then refine recommendations based on that feedback.
Meredith, got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think it would be also beneficial for those that cannot make it out to the event that we can still send this questionnaire out in the form of our news blast?
I love that idea because not everyone can attend something in person based on various circumstances and schedules. So I think having multiple ways to provide input is great. And when we get to the housing plan update, I'll let y'all know what we're doing with that. And maybe we want to do something like what we're doing with that. And I'll share that with you. You can tell me what you think.
Okay, thank you.
So that is what I had for the comprehensive plan update, Rolesville Reimagine. What questions do you have?
That was it.
I know it's a House bill that's being talked about. If we do this plan and a House bill puts a 3-year stop on planning in that area, then we can make the plan, but we can't hold anybody to it. Is that kind of what it? I mean, the whole plan in that area is really doesn't have teeth in it, I guess. Is that true?
I'm not familiar with something affecting comprehensive plans. I know there's been a lot of talk about ETJ.
Yeah, that's why
Okay.
the comprehensive, when they came out and talked to us,
Mhm.
they said the next thing we need to do after we do the plan is to,
Yes, yes,
that
you're
makes
right.
sure that we can work the plan.
Right. So, yes, I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to follow that and get help from the attorney to make sure we're understanding and following things correctly.
Because really, we can do all we want to, and Wake County can just decide what they want to do too, can't they?
Exactly. There are a number of bills pending that will make a difference to planning staff and cities across the state, depending upon which ones pass and in what form.
So really hinder the ability to do that. I mean, they could put whatever right in the middle where we want to put something.
Mhm. So we still need to make the greatest land use plan possible and have it ready to go for where we can apply and use it to help us move forward. Anything else? Okay. For the housing plan, got an email from Candace this afternoon that she has a draft web page put together and wanted, it's very kind of her to let me know that this afternoon. She wanted you all to know that we're about ready to make this live online. So we have a draft of the 10-year affordable housing plan. And just an important note, the picture on the front is a placeholder. The consultant has focused on all the text, and I provided them with a lot of photos that I've taken around town. But they wanted to wait and get the text reviewed and commented on before they did the final graphic layout with photos and such. So photos are, to me, are really important to put in a housing plan to show different housing types and the nice neighborhoods we have in Rolesville. So there will be great pictures in this after it's complete. So we have the housing plan, and Candace is making a web page. And along with the housing plan being on the web page, there is a Cognito comment form where you can provide open-ended comments. It's just, let us know what you think about this plan, what comments, questions, and concerns do you have. So it's an open form to put that in, and staff will receive all of that and be able to compile it. And the comment period will be from approximately the beginning of next week for 4 weeks. So, we have, it's Good Friday this week, Monday's the 21st, so around the 21st to around the 19th of May will be the comment period. And once we get all the comments, we'll digest those and provide that to the consultants so they can make any edits and share that with you all. And then we'll go through the process of taking that to the planning board so they can check it out and then bring it back to you all. Any questions about the housing plan? And I
Ready to
don't
read
have,
it?
go ahead.
No, just saying, ready to read it, that's all.
Yeah, yes, that'll be great. And I don't have any slides for the text amendment piece this evening. Just wanted to share with you all an idea that I thought was really good that came from the town attorney. I don't know, Dave, you suggested to me in an email a while ago that we take the land development ordinance chapter by chapter and clean it up. Anytime you do a new ordinance, several years following that, there's necessary cleanup. All kinds of things from just quick, simple fixes to other topics that we've been trying to improve. For example, one thing we've talked about are landscape buffers. I think we can do more with landscaping and maybe less with walls, or have performance standards for those. We talked a little bit about that. But I think the buffer section needs some help. And then buffers in downtown, we've talked about those being performance standards, because it doesn't make sense to have on your main street a suburban style buffer in between properties when you want the space to be active and walkable. So a little more differentiation there. So with the LDO text amendments coming up, I wanted to see what you all thought about what I think is a great idea, is to look at it chapter by chapter and just really focus on getting it cleaned up and in a better space for us, so we can ensure that we're having the best designed Rolesville community possible. I've been driving by Walbrook when I come into the office, and I think it looks better and better each day. The landscaping looks great. One spot that troubles me with that is when I think the buffer between the townhome community and the inline shops that are to the right of Publix, I think that I would prefer to see that with more landscaping. Otherwise, I think the landscaping looks great. But, seeing things like that built, it gives us ideas on how we can make improvements.
It is some landscaping that'll eventually go between them two.
Some more.
Because another building has to go there,
I think it needs to be substantial, so I want to make sure it looks, if we have that kind of situation where you have non-residential next to residential, make sure it's working.
I think the lights look good, so you guys did a good job with the lights, I think.
I think the
I
buildings
don't know
look
if y'all
great.
been by it at night since they lit up the buildings or not. They look pretty good.
I'm really excited to see that in Rolesville.
Meredith, the LDO was last amended in 2023.
Our last text amendment was the government facilities that you
Our
all
last-
approved,
I'm talking about the whole.
the
as a
whole- getting it all cleaned up and
Was
together
that 21 or 23? Because I see that we adopted the LDO
in 21.
21,
Mhm.
and it says the LDO contains land use development and zoning regulations, and was last amendment on April 4th of 23.
The whole document together, yes. So we need to do a new version of that.
So that's amended every 4 years?
Amended, anytime there's a text amendment, the ordinance is considered amendment, but cleaning the whole thing up,
Whole thing up.
that is something we could certainly make improvements on and do that more frequently. But I was hoping by doing the chapter by chapter
We wouldn't have to do
cleanup,
that.
we could get the whole, we'd gradually have the entire thing amended and in great shape, within, if we do a chapter a month and a year.
Okay.
Commissioner Sneed, much of the changes that I had been focused on were not substantive. They were technical changes where there is language that is inconsistent with other provisions or is unclear and has resulted in staff having to make an interpretation. So that interpretation is now being made as to how to implement that provision, but we've never written clearly what the law is. And that risks confusion, litigation, and at a more mild level, just it makes the town less business friendly to be able to navigate a complicated development process. But I keep a list of calls that I receive from lawyers who ask me, what does this sentence mean? And these were issues that weren't picked up in 2021 in all cases, primarily because that was an effort to beat a legislative standard where we had to adopt new provisions in order to maintain our zoning status
Okay.
because of the adoption of 160D.
Okay, that's what.
So you'll remember we had an outside consultant, and we had a stakeholder group, and it turned into a big policy choice,
Yes.
but it wasn't much of a legislative drafting committee technical clarity effort at all.
Okay, I remember the 2021.
That was
and I-
2020.
I
It was
new
very
to the
big
board,
picture.
And so I was wondering, is that done every so many years? But you said that it was in regards
Not-
to the change. of
Not typically. When your comprehensive plans are a plan for the future, whereas the LDO is the regulatory law. Our comp plan is not the law. No one has to do it, and you all don't have to listen to it. But the law, just like our town code, generally doesn't have an expiration date.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, major change where we abandon Chapter 160A. We just got rid of the entire article on regulation of development and created a new chapter called 160D. All the rules changed, so it was time to come back and visit it. And the UDO had some age on it. I don't know if it was 89. It might not have been quite that old, but it no longer matched the realities of a town that was coming up on 10,000 people. It was more for a town of 1,000 people.
And I think with our changes, text amendments that we do, and this process of doing it a chapter every month, I don't know if it was every month or however often, I could see where the whole thing would be revised.
It gives the planning board something to do too. So
yeah.
that's good. I mean, that's really, their expertise will be invaluable to this effort. So let them dig in on a chapter, read it through. Many of them are development professionals. If they don't know what it means, then it needs to be written differently, even if it isn't intended as a policy change.
Got it.
But the staff can't make those changes. They have to be made by the board, and they have to follow a public hearing because they're in the land development section. We can't just do them on the fly. It's a process.
Okay.
So, so 2021, like you said, is when the language was written, and we've been doing that, been updating it. But as for the map, have we done any updating to the map at
For
all?
the zoning map,
Yeah.
we actually have Bolton and Mink, a consultant working on updating our zoning map right now, and I think they're really close to being done with that. They've been helping the planning department with GIS and some mapping items, so we will have that updated. And since we also got the missing annexations worked out, everything will be in really good shape with the right lines and colors and everything.
But we hadn't up to this point, though.
Right, we haven't,
So
yes, so
I
we're missing that.
think from April's point of view, and maybe my point of view, is maybe the language like David talking about, the text stuff, has an expiration date, or you don't have to do it so often. But I think the map needs to be done every 5 years or something, just to make sure that we got a good map.
We should
You
be
know.
keeping up with it, with every rezoning. Just had some technical difficulties with that, and that's something we've got to do a better job with.
Yeah.
So for clarity, the official map is updated by the action of you voting on a rezoning. That changes the color at that moment on the GIS. So it is changing every time you vote on a rezoning. Whether that then is being reflected in a tool you can use to share in a single shot and know that it's been updated through a certain date is a different question.
Right.
Right. But it is changing every day because the property owner is bringing petitions to you and you are considering those in your policy judgment. That's the zoning map.
So there is no online zoning map, though.
There
that's
is,
being updated. In other words, you go into your thing and it's got a static zoning map. It's not like iMaps or something. There's no zoning map like iMaps. or anything.
if you go into IMAPs, they do have Rolesville zoning in IMAPs, so that should be accurate.
So there you go.
But Rolesville zoning map,
You what now?
It typically reflects the same information, but you just can't manipulate it in IMAPs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I guess the other thing, since we're talking about this topic of this, I think one thing, we're just a small town. In 21, we're still small. But there's things that, new elements coming in, like now we talking about maybe a downtown district, which we never had
Yes.
before, which most towns have a downtown district. And, that would be a change to UDO on how do you do a downtown district. Because now if you do something downtown, you got to follow the same rules that you would out on Rogers Road. And, downtowns are different. And we don't have one. So those type things, I think, makes it evolving or evolutionary, as we go along. Some of those concepts, I think, so.
and by saying that, you're making me think about the comprehensive plan again. So with the comprehensive plan, that should absolutely be reflected in the new future land use map. And it is, I think, I'm going to say 100% of the time, when you do a comprehensive plan update, one of the action items that comes out of that are land development ordinance amendments to make sure that plan is connected. I
mirror.
guess.
I understand.
Anything else? Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other thing, Meredith?
Thank you, Meredith.
Well, I think you ran through yours. You did item 3 and 4.
Yeah, I ran them all together.
So, yeah, so you did it all. So, we're down to the item that we want to add, which is Prairie Street discussion. I know that I've had a lot of calls on the trucks that goes through there, and it seems like we can't keep them out of there. And, I just rode out to the school today. When I come back through, I saw three large dump trucks, with tandem wheels. They was in a line coming through there. And kind of want to discuss that. What can we do to, really it's not safe. That street is not safe for the big trucks to go through there. It's hard for 2 cars to pass. If you ever go through there, it's hard for 2 cars to pass. But if a truck gets in there, even a tandem dump truck or cement mixer truck or something, we want to have a lot of that. It's just not safe for those streets and things, so.
Well, we're going to handle this together.
Okay.
The manager can give you a report, and then we can talk about what legal options we might have immediately, as this sounds like something that can no longer wait.
Yeah, agreed. So I agree that it's not safe. It's something that we've been attentive to, and we've updated signage. We even had the signage delivered from our recent conversation with Commissioner Sneed. We had changed one sign, and we had some additional, more visual ones to go out there that they'll be posting tomorrow morning. But in general, we've communicated with all the people in the area to not go through that, the construction sites in the area. But the situation that we're kind of seeing is that as they change over subcontractors or get new drivers, they don't communicate with the new drivers, because when at the beginning of the Main Street project, we made an effort to close that street on in the DOT system, but people petitioned it, residents petitioned it to say that it was not closed and that the street itself wasn't being worked on. And so that red line that exists on some is not consistent through like Apple Maps, Waze and such like that, because people from the community petitioned it through the actual app. And so it prevented it from being closed down for truck routing. And so we've had to verbally and kind of manually communicate with the developers and the people that are working in the area to let them know not to take that route, and also communicate with people through our news blast to say don't primarily use that and to use the Virginia Water Drive. In the situation today, I worked with Chief, our police chief, Chief Simmons, and he went out to the construction site off Redford Place. Both the mayor and then police officers, they were out to kind of track and see where they were coming from. And so it's coming from that development there off Redford Place. And Chief had spoke to Cardinal Civil, their contracting company, and they told them do not use Perry Street. And from what that point of contact on site there was, and I can relay that person's information with you all. If you'd like to do that, they let their dispatchers know and advise them not to use that street at all. And so we hope that will be a remedy. It's not construction traffic from Main Street, like Fred Smith and all them all know that. It's the ones from the surrounding area, and in this case, it's the development work taking place there on Redford Place. And so we've communicated with them. They said that they are communicating. We've communicated with them. They said they have communicated out to their dispatch center to not use that street. And so we hope that will remedy it. In the meantime, I've talked with Chief about putting additional coverage out there to help enforce. And so we're trying to come up with other ideas as to how we can physically restrict that space a little bit more. I had bounced the idea off Dave and also talked with Medit and Isaac about it earlier, but it'll require a little bit of communication with that community. You see some places with like protected crosswalks, there'll be like a yellow bollard in the middle of the street there. And by adding some kind of feature, hardscape type feature, either curb or a bollard there, it'll just make it much harder for people to turn down through there if you have an excessively wide vehicle. And so we're trying to look through those physical ways of doing that. I had communicated that to staff, and we're working on trying to get a design for something like that and options along with that Granite Falls resurfacing. So that's included in that from a conversation about 3 weeks ago. But in general, we'll be hammering down and doing whatever we can to try to help avoid it. They'll cover it peak hours on either end of the Perry Street, and then patrol it as well. And town attorney has spoken with Chief to kind of empower them to be able to enforce those things, which wasn't a question of doing it, but by helping the conversation, they help bolster it a little bit.
Yeah, so Dave, you know, I know we use the term, we hope the developer does something. If this board deems it unsafe and they don't communicate to their people properly, can we shut them down for a week for them to get their communications in order? So
Or fine.
or a month or whatever, and say, hey, you shutting all work down until you get this unsafe condition worked out?
There is a provision of 160D that allows us to issue stop work orders, but those are for violations of their permit. It would be great if there was a permit relating to this project that was a construction management permit or something like that, which some projects do have, that we could show that they're violating. I have not investigated to see whether that might happen, but stop work is on the 160D side. On the 160A side, by the time a dump truck or other heavy vehicle has reached Perry Street, the law treats them, they're just a motor vehicle. They're no longer the responsibility from where they originated. That's really just a practical investigation that I had suggested to the police department today, that if we can address it with the source, that may be in fact as effective as choosing a sign or any ordinance that the board would adopt tonight, if we can just get their cooperation on this point. I was not aware that the manager was already with the knowledge that we've had a lot of turnover with regard to these drivers. So even when that message is achieved, it's quickly lost to institutional memory. I don't know if that message had ever gotten back to the dispatcher before today. So at this point, all we can say is that we're optimistic, and the chief can certainly speak to this, that some progress was made. For this evening, and I know, Commissioner Long?
I'll wait till you finish, David. You might answer. I do have a question.
Okay. For this evening, in terms of what could the board do tonight in the absence of a drafted town code provision that we would adopt to expressly regulate the weight of vehicles on particular streets, the town is authorized to regulate the weights of town streets and how they are run. We can do that by ordinance. What we can also do is by your action tonight, you can temporarily close a street for a particular purpose. So temporarily closing Perry Street or the other affected streets, I'm not sure if it's just Perry, to heavy vehicle traffic and through traffic would go a long way to providing the bolster of authority that Rolesville PD could then use to ensure that they're on the right side of the law. Now, what they are going to be doing at that point is issuing a citation as to a town code matter. But as we discussed, the town code right now defaults to $50. That may not achieve a tremendous amount, but it does provide the opening for the officer to have made the stop, provides an opportunity to gain conformance, which at the end of the day is really what we're trying to do. I doubt anyone has made their life of crime driving down streets they're not allowed to drive down. That's really just not a huge criminal enterprise. So you would hope that that would have a positive effect, and that as we don't have the opportunity to draft a full code provision, the board can do this by your action tonight. It would require an affirmative vote of the unanimous board to take action, as this is the first time it's being brought forward, and that would become a part of the ordinance, and I would bring it back to you to be codified at a later meeting.
All right. So my questions are, David, you already spoke to it, but can we levy a higher fine to these repeat offenders first? And then second, when we say weight of the vehicle, is there a designated weight that we need to target? Because as I was looking at the ordinance, it really is kind of all over the place in terms of weight of the vehicle. So what would that number look like conclusively? Thank you.
Right. So to kind of speak to a conversation I had with Chief today, I don't think identifying weight would be something that we can do since we don't have a scale, right? Weight is typically something that's associated with highway patrol.
It's on the
and lift stations.
registration card, is it not?
But
If it's a licensed weight,
I think the best route,
because I think
the best route forward would be to simply cite prohibiting trucks for safety and capacity reasons. And so that'll be based more so on the size of the street. And that's something that's more easily replicable across the town, to assign it to an actual street name and not it come down to the actual vehicle that is being driven. And so the weight of some of those trucks fluctuate whether they're loaded or not. And so that's just something that we can do. And then also, I've been working through language, just gleaning from NCDOT traffic, their traffic ordinance manual for inspiration around the different types of trucks and vehicles that will be allowed. And so by doing that and updating some language and actually citing the general statutes that kind of empower us, I think that will help us out a lot for clarity on allowing giving them something more to conform with. And also as far as we can clarify on that every new instance can escalate, or each occurrence is its own separate incident, so that there won't be, I got a ticket for last week. Oh, I'll fix it later, and then keep driving down. So each instance can be a separate kind of like civil event. And so I've been working on that language myself and Stephen today. And so we'll try to bring something to make our town code more strict before you, But the most immediate thing you can do is what the town attorney referred to just a moment ago.
Can we restrict it to 2-axle?
Yes, and so we can. So essentially,
That's a good idea.
That makes it easy.
It's very robust, and so we can define what a truck is. We can define lane restrictions. We can give examples. We can prohibit trucks on certain routes as well. And so this is just a great, I guess, moment in time to just revisit that in general, because we have a traffic ordinance, but we don't have anything that does like vehicle restrictions on particular routes or truck restrictions and prohibitions. As we kind of like transition, as you all mentioned, to a bigger town and we have more traffic, we can kind of make sure that we preserve those more residential streets that are older, because we shouldn't have to like upgrade the cross section of a street just because things are growing. But we can do that as well. I can work to get a draft before you all of that, and we can review it and y'all can offer up recommendations. But
I think what David's talking about may take a lot of urgency off what you're talking about. That's more of a long-term thing.
yes, so
But I
that's the
think-
most immediate. The most immediate, I recommend both.
Yeah.
Go with the more immediate action that we can empower PD, and then in the meantime we can help. Hopefully, by that enforcement, it'll be a strong deterrent. And then we'll look into updating the town code, the ordinance, to make it more strict with enforcement. And then the third thing, which actually the second, would be looking at what kind of physical infrastructure changes we can make to restrict it. We've already looking into that, but we need to make sure that we're communicating about it so it's not that much of a surprise to the community. But I think that is honestly the best, cheapest way to go about it. And it's a physical pole. And so it's really just put up signage, get ample warning. And it also provide for a more protected pedestrian experience as well. And so we'll look at that.
Can we raise the fine at all? Can we go from $50 to $250? Because I believe that that's like to some of them, that's just like, hey, $50. But if we make it a higher fine, I believe you'll get their attention. It's a question.
Through an ordinance, we can do that.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Through the motion that we make tonight, can we have that as part of the temporary, or the closing of the road temporary thing?
So my recommendation is to not get into the penalties section of our town code, as that needs help. It currently is $50 across the board. It has
Each violation.
every violation is $50. The only difference you might have on that is that the LDO notes that violations are treated as a new violation every day that you're in violation of the LDO, and that's what the statute provides. So it's $50 a day, which does add up pretty quickly. Yeah. We can go higher, but I want that to come back to the board as a written codification item that you can go forward with. But towns all the time.
Dave, I'm sorry, if this is temporary, is that not allowed in a temporary situation to go up on a fine, since we're talking about it being a short term?
Temporary closure of a street is for a defined time, and the custom and practice in the state of North Carolina is that it happens either on consent agenda or proclamation of the board upon a petition from a community member telling you there's going to be a parade.
Okay,
It is
thank
the
you.
lowest, easiest way for us to empower with some precise authority our police department at a work session on Tuesday night. Right now, given that this emergency has arisen, I would suggest you make it for 90 days. 90 days, temporarily closing Perry Street and I don't know if there's another street that needs to be closed, to through traffic and trucks in excess of 2 axles. And we're at that point, we've got the chief right here. PD has their marching orders. They don't have to worry about vague language where they're trying to piece together something based upon a sign that may be at the end of the street. Now, there's another piece to this that has a cost. The town code and the statutes for traffic regulation all presume you're going to post the traffic regulation so that the driver can know what the heck the traffic regulation is. So whatever you decide this evening may require staff to go back and tweak the signage to make sure that it matches up so that the police department, when they're pulling that person over, they darn well know why they're getting pulled over.
Everything's clear and concise.
You should not be driving a dump truck the next day on Perry Street and be shocked to see the flashing lights behind you. That's the idea. Now, they shouldn't be shocked now because I understand there is a sign there.
Sign says,
Right.
what does the sign say? No through traffic?
It says no. So on one end of the street, on Main Street, it says no through traffic, and then coming off East Young, it has a sign that has a truck with a cross through it that says basically no trucks. But we're updating it to where it says the same thing on both sides. But it's inferred that our communications around this have been the same for over 18 months. And these, it's one thing for it to be commercial. And so commercial traffic, construction traffic, but there's also the regulars. And so I think enforcement will help with that. But we're updating the signage to reflect that. And that's always been the intent. We've put out signs. We had cones. People remove street signs once we,
So
when we
with those
initially
signs,
did
if we
that.
pass
So
it, if the board unanimously pass it tonight, what their motion would be, and with
Mhm.
those signs, they can start enforcing tomorrow day?
they don't need the signs to enforce.
Because he says it's two signs, the signs on
It's
both
signs up
ends.
right now.
How long have they been there?
They've been there forever.
But we've
The
always
ones
said
that
we
the ones
can't
that say no through traffic and the one that has the truck on it have been there. We ordered more signs 3 weeks ago, but there's always been signage that said no through traffic.
And they say we can't enforce that. It's nothing to enforce. That we don't have any, that's what he's saying. We need to come back and have some rules for enforcing that with his new,
No, we could always enforce, but there was just more clarity that needed to be done on that.
kind of what I said.
Yeah.
We haven't been enforced because we don't have the clarity to enforce it, but, let's see if the board, what do you board want to do on this? Do we want to make a decision to, I see some nods.
Sure.
Is it unanimous? So Paul, do you feel like you can make a motion? You got enough notes there? And I think the terminology using is to close the street temporarily for 90 days for safety
To
reasons.
through traffic and truck traffic in excess of 2 axles. Temporary closure is presumed to be a precise time. Typically, the temporary closure actions by towns are August 15th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The driver has to have a fighting chance of understanding what the law would be. So 90 days is a precise measure. Is that enough? 120 days? 120 days would be a way to go with this. And then we want to make sure that the signage is clear. I in my head, can imagine the standard, USTA regulatory sign for no trucks. I know what that looks like. And I know what the axle restriction looks like, and they're typically vertical on a sign. That's what I'm sure the police department would love to see. And will that gain compliance? I don't know.
We'll be rich.
I've already, I think I've already told the mayor, I told the chief, I don't know how that works in terms of compliance, but once folks get pulled over, I think that will have some value, but people are going to you're still going to get calls.
Yeah.
There's going to be the new dope who goes down the road.
Violator.
So I do have one question. So after we talked and you ordered new signs, did you order signs to come out? Where are the signs going? That's my question.
On either end of Perry Street
Okay,
one on the East Young side and on the Main Street side, on the entrances of that community.
so as we had talked about, sometimes they get down there and they can't turn around. Is that at the beginning of Perry Street? Is that far enough out
They can-
to
they-
let them know,
they can keep
don't go there because
They
they
can
can't
keep
turn
straight
around?
now, though.
I thought-
Main Street is open.
can keep
so that
straight.
way they
That's
keep
right,
straight.
that's right. Oh,
Yeah, they can keep straight. And I
okay.
had emailed Chief and our capital project manager. So if we have one of those, like we have a temporary closure coming up, like a week and a half for like 2 or 3 days for them to coordinate on that. And so we'll just have clear the overtime for them to be there for that. And in that case, then that closure needs to come up to like Old Rogers Road and not down at Perry Street to where they can't turn around.
Yes. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Okay.
And then it will be at Virginia Water Drive on the East Young side in that case.
I'm looking at Chief Simmons to see if I can detect a head nod on his side to this plan.
Yeah. And so like if to remind you, so when we first started with the traffic control devices, we had barriers everywhere. And everybody complained about the barriers and signs, and it was requested they would be removed. We can put
Everybody, residents?
residents,
Downtown people.
downtown people, you all receive complaints about it. We all receive complaints. And so those orange and white barriers, the detour signs, all that stuff had to be moved out of the street onto the shoulder and then behind the sidewalk and then further down and then further out. And then the kids got out for summer and then they started disappearing and then we bought some more. And so we can get on people's nerves with barriers. But just want to let you know that as we work on the problem which we were trying to stop was the major trucks and through traffic, then that's a small amount of people in comparison to the residents that live in the area that say, why is this in our way? And so I just wanted to just let you all know in the community know that we can remedy this problem, but then you'll get calls from someone else, another patron that's patron for another reason as to why this is in the road, right? And so this will not eliminate, this will change the noise, but it won't eliminate
Yep.
the noise. It'll change the voices that we hear, but it won't eliminate all the voices. And so I just wanted to state that and let you all know that our goal is to get this intersection open as soon as possible. That's always been our intention. And so our goal is the noise will not stop until the intersection is open and the project's done. And we know that, and even in knowing that, we haven't normalized it to ignore and not be intentional on it. And so any and all of the resolutions we try to do, we're trying to thread that needle and making sure we don't overkill and cause more disturbance. And so journeying through this project has been balancing those things. We always have respect for that Perry Street community, and we value them. We're not intentionally trying to push people down that. We are, unfortunately, we can't control free will, and we haven't enforced things as we can. And we just encourage our community to be cognizant of that and to not use the street. People continue to do it. It's people of all ages, all vehicle sizes, when there is a perfectly 3 times wider road to use that can sustain that traffic. And so this is something that we've petitioned our community about. We've had people out there on occasion in their vests saying, hey, what's going on? We tried the pieces of paper during certain events. Like, if you live in this community, put this piece of paper on but again, it's just so many people. And we're battling free will. And so we're asking our community, we petition our community to not live into the convenience and create disruption and to take the long route and enjoy the sights of Virginia Water Drive and 401, because it is actually beautiful and it's a lot more space and it's a lot less risky And so I did not want us to kind of move through this without me saying that. We've been, same way we have plans for Granite Falls, we have plans for Perry Street Community and the William Street to resurface and fix those streets. But it's really hard to do that when it is a construction project and we don't want to create too much construction in the area. And so we can move a little bit faster with Granite Falls because it doesn't have a stormwater issue, but we are in the midst of completing a stormwater assessment on that area to make sure that we do the subsurface repairs and upgrades before we fix that street as well. And so we'll continue monitoring those things, but I wanted to just put that information out there for so that everyone knows our heart behind it and the work that we're doing to try to alleviate it. We're doing everything we can as far as the things that are in our control, and we try to respond as strongly as possible when we did it. But we did need you all to take action on this tonight because our overtime budget for PD has redlined as a result of us clearing overtime for taking on and being, what saturation would be the proper word, of Virginia Water Drive. And so we've had to slow down that overtime for the sake of our budgetary expenditures. And so this clears us to be able to release and transfer more money. And so we'll likely bring another amendment ahead of you, before you all, to move money from our general fund to do that. And so we just have to do a calculation on that time for that. So
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know how much they cost. I'm sure they're crazy expensive, but maybe not. Could we put a camera on each end of those that, you know how when you run a red light, it takes a picture?
right.
Could we do that instead of having the police out there monitoring it all the time and just send tickets out in the mail?
So I think we need to do something with our town code to empower. We are empowered to use different things like that. And since it's a controlled street, that would be good. We have LPRs inside of in the budget for next year, and we could try to move that ahead. License plate readers. So there's something we have to figure out technology wise. And make sure that that's something we can enforce. But we can talk with Dave about it.
But I also know time is an issue. And so
Time
is
is
it
an
worth
issue.
investing in it when the project will be over here in a few months?
That is,
So I'm just being realistic, but what's
That
gonna
is
cost
also-
more, that or that?
that's also
you know?
correct. But I think having it in place, having the necessary codified ordinance in place and having the equipment can be beneficial to us to where we can kind of drop down. Those are things that are mobile that we can drop down in any instance and monitor. It also will be good for just like getting information. So when they say trucks are coming through all the time, knowing where they are, who they are, police can do certain things. And so those are things we can think about as far as like making sure that technologically we can handle construction, detours, things like that in different communities to also be beneficial to this general of crime as well.
Commissioner Sneed, the answer is yes, but your powers of photographic enforcement are limited by statute. Coincidentally, to $50.
Is that state or that's local?
State.
Okay.
Yeah, it's allowed to be adopted by ordinance. There was a tremendous backlash against the traffic light cameras and that whole industry. And one of the ways to sort of put the cap on that was to adopt a statute that we now have that allows for civil enforcement by photographic evidence, but it's capped at $50, which, as you might imagine, really did run off the for-profit enterprises that were trying to put up those cameras.
Right. But the good thing is that it doesn't matter how much it is. If you get a movement violation when you're on a commercial vehicle, your employer doesn't like it. Doesn't matter if it's $1, $50,
That is true.
100. Like you're going to be out of a job soon. if you
It's a civil
continue with that.
citation,
And
so it
it's a
isn't even a
civil
moving
citation.
violation. So
But it's
they
a-
really did kind of gut it. But you can do it, and for this sort of situation, might be the exact time that it makes sense. We'd have to adopt it by ordinance.
Ready, Paul?
Yep. Move to temporarily close Perry Street to through traffic and limit to 2 axles for 120 days effective 4/15/2025.
Second.
I think we need a roll call on that. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, you mind doing a roll call?
Aye.
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 Okay, it appears the ayes have it. Ayes do have it unanimously.
Thanks,
So, motion approved. And, thank you, board. Thank you, guys. Thank you, chief. I think, I think it's a really safety issue. It's an emergency situation. I talked to Dave, and we're going to give this a few weeks and see if it helps out. If not, we got to do something different. I talked even about, declaring a state of emergency for safety when it does to these construction sites. We're only going to get more construction sites, and people got to learn how to drive on streets on these trucks and stuff, because it's a real safety to the community and kids and everything else that lives in these residential areas if you got these large dump trucks and things going through there. And we'll be talking about it more, but if I have to declare emergency, I think if I declare emergency for safety, I think I can shut that job site down. And under those conditions, and we need to get their attention somehow that we don't want them trucks going through neighborhoods, and we'll continue to talk about it. So we'll see how it goes for the next few weeks, and then we'll come back. By the time we meet first meeting of May, I think that's a long 3-week break, so we should have an understanding of what's going on there. But I think we just need to get serious over it. I really do. We'll see how it goes the next 3 weeks. But thank you, staff. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. Any other items? Anybody got any other items they want to talk about or bring up before we go into closed session? I know the next item is the closed session. So
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remind the town staff, as anyone that is available from the board, of our citizens in conversation with our PD and some of our public safety on April 19th at Artisan Beer and Cheese from 11 to 1. If you have not seen the advertisement, I'm sure they're starting to do Facebook Bad Blast this week. But please, if you are eligible and willing, we'd love to have you there. Thank you.
gotcha. All right. Anything else? Anything, Eric, from you or clerk? All right. So I will.
Mayor, as you are about to call for a motion on the closed session, just 2 quick items. One, from our remote participation ordinance. Commissioner Long will not be able to participate in our closed session, but I will follow up with him privately. And secondly, Commissioner Paul would be rightly recused from participating in the closed session on the basis of a legal conflict of interest. And so he's protected under the statute on that.
On 2 updates, we're in the middle of budget season. We had a successful meeting with the budget committee, which is Commissioner Vilga and Commissioner Long. And so the budget is moving along. We're continuing to get more information from staff and from the National League of, North Carolina League of Municipalities, and also meeting with the managers throughout the region to get an idea of the kind of economic forecasts and things that we're looking ahead for in the future. In general, things are tight. The budget's tight. Growth is slowing. Sales tax is down. As far as the property tax collection rates, they're down as well. They're anticipating just like the terminology that they use was like a silent kind of soft recession, silent recessions, things of that nature. And so we're planning for the future. A lot of people, a lot of other municipalities in the county, they have a hiring freeze. They're not filling positions. You see way less positions being added because we want to make sure that if growth trends down, that we're not being too aggressive in having to roll back. Some positions are being eliminated. The trickle down of some of the impacts from the county is impacting from federal restrictions and such from the county is impacting some of the hiring through some joint positions. Fortunately, we don't have any joint positions with Wake County here that will impact us, but in general, we're taking a lot of things into account with the budget. I'll be meeting with department heads next week to move into the next phase of just kind of like decisions on the many different budget requests, and then we'll circle back and meet with the budget committee again ahead of the budget presentation that'll take place next month. And so the budget is one update. The second is I'll be at City Vision the last week of this month, April 29th through March the 3rd. My focus there will be around affordable housing and figuring out resources around that, as well as civic and community engagement. Two things that we're really focused on here. I'm able to go because unfortunately Commissioner Long couldn't attend and is non-refundable, so I was able to transfer his registration to me. And so in addition to doing that, we'll be supporting Nightdale. They are doing a presentation, their mayor and their manager are doing a presentation workshop around civic engagement and how we can continue to engage our community during a time where incivility is kind of rising. The tensions are rising when it comes to just communication and engagement with the community. And so I'm looking forward to that. And so I wanted to just let you know about that. I'll be working with Stephen for him to be kind of prepared. It'll be my first time being away for a bit, but I'll remain available for any requests. But those are the major updates. In general, we're really optimistic about the budget and how things going. Looking forward to bringing that before you all. And we're taking this as an opportunity to kind of recalibrate and prepare for what might be a tight 2 or 3 years budgetarily as a region.
All right, well, thanks. I appreciate that, and appreciate the committee working with the budget committee, working with the group. You're doing a good job of that, and thank everybody for that. I do want to say from the staff level that I believe we've always been very conservative on staff. I think Amy has always done a good job of that, and all of our town managers for many years have done that. So, I believe every employee we have is an essential employee. And, so there is no employees that work for Rolesville that is not essential. And, I used not to think that, because I used to think our attorney, we really didn't need an attorney, I didn't think that was, I didn't think that was very essential, but, now I kind of believe he is too. So he's come around a little bit, but.
Well, he's not an employee either. So
Well, he's
that helps.
somewhat, but I really think you guys done a great job. And when it comes to talking about that kind of thing, I don't think we have anything to worry about, because I really think we got a good staff that everybody is needed, work, and does a good job. So thank you very much. So with that, I will ask for a motion for executive session or closed session.
I move that we go into closed session in pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, paragraph alpha, number 6, due to personnel.
And I think we have to have a roll call on that too, I think, even though some of them will be excused. So, would Madam Clerk do a roll call?
Aye.
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 Yeah, you,
Commissioner Long, yes.
Yes, aye.
all right. I think the ayes do have it. So with that, we will be, we're just going to be adjourned in closed session. So we'll be back after that. So thanks everybody for participating tonight. Appreciate it. And we will come back in a little while.